Welcome to Your Business Success Podcast with your host, Hiroo Chothia, where she and her guests explore strategies of how to gain business mastery through growing your revenue as well as your personal time in order to develop a strong and sustainable business.
Okay, well, a very warm welcome everyone to another episode of Business Growth Mastery Show, where we showcase 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and subject experts so that they can share their breakthroughs, their challenges and successes, so that you can emulate those successes in trying to grow your own business and hopefully avoid some of the challenges that they too have faced. I'm absolutely delighted to have with us Milana Leshinsky as our guest today, as she meets not one, but all 3 criterion of the show. And that's being a 7-figure entrepreneur, subject expert, and thought leader. And it's lovely that we can tick off all of those when we've got somebody like her as a guest. So a little bit about Milana first. As her name suggests, she is of Soviet Ukraine heritage and arrived in the US in 1992. And you will hear from her in a moment all about that and how she came about changing her direction in terms of her career, moving from music into coaching, and subsequently creating a whole new concept of online summits, which again, she will tell you a little bit more about in a moment. Following from that, she went on to co-found the hugely successful joint venture Inside a Circle, which is where she hit that 7-figure mark of success. However, she's going to go on to explain later why this 7-figure revenue generation did not provide her with the satisfaction that you would have expected, and perhaps she too would have expected. So she took a sabbatical, and as a result has created what's called the Simplicity Circle. Now, as there's so much rich content that I want to explore with Milana, and it's going to be so valuable to all you listeners who are looking to grow your business the way she has, that she has so very kindly agreed to a 2-part interview series. In the first interview, we will be exploring her entrepreneurial journey, as well as what made her create the whole new concept, as I said, of online summits. What they are, who they're for, why they're useful. Please don't worry if you don't understand what that means at the moment, because I'm sure she's going to explain it all. And then why they, most importantly, continue to be so successful years on from the time that she created them. And of course, she's going to provide you with some very useful tips, as is her way, along the way of that interview. We will then have a second interview as part of this series where we will explore how she made her first million, as I said, and why she walked away from it all, which may surprise a lot of you, to develop eventually, after a break, what she's called the Simplicity Circle, which very much resonates with the ethos of the show, as well as our own proprietary swing system that I've used to coach people for many years, which is based very much on that simplistic mode of operating in your business to get the best out of it. So, a very, very warm welcome, Milana. Delighted that you can be with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Hiroo. You seem to know my full biography better than I do myself. Very exciting to hear someone else retell my story.
Well, it's such a fascinating story that I wanted to bring it very much to life, and I'm sure you're going to do the same in a moment for the listeners. But before we unpick the whole concept of the online summits, internet summits, etc., that you refer to in this first interview, why don't you create the context for us and for the listeners by expanding on how your early journey as a musician began, and how that led you into your entrepreneurial journey, and why you ended up making the switch from music, really?
It was actually the most difficult switch I've ever had to make in my life up until that point, because since the age of 8, I knew I was going to be a musician for the rest of my life. No other career direction or world ever I never imagined doing anything else. Let me put it this way. I slept, ate, breathed music.
Wow.
That's where my fulfillment came from. That's where my confidence has developed. That's where my friends came from. It was all, I was surrounded by music. So it's very strange, 26 years later now, to see that I'm not part of that world anymore, at least not at that level. I'm part of a different world, equally exciting, but very different. And, as we were getting ready to immigrate from Ukraine, my uncle was telling my father that she's not going to make it here as a musician. Nobody needs music in America. And of course, my family, my parents were very anxious about it. And I thought, I'm going to prove them differently. So I came to the States. And as soon as I could speak a little bit more English, I enrolled myself into college, into a music major. It was a community college, so it wasn't very high level. And what I quickly found myself doing is actually correcting the professor who was teaching classes there, because I was already, past all
Ahead
of that
stage. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the first time in my life, I was written up for discipline issues in music college, in one of the music classes, which was just surreal. But that was a sign that I was not in the right place. I was so bored. As soon as I started understanding enough English to understand the professor, I completely zoned out, and I knew that this is not going to be where I'm going to stay. And I had my first child by then, and chose to come back, not to music, but to computers.
Wow.
Because computer programming and registered nursing were the two areas where they were encouraging Ukrainian immigrants to go into, because you either become a computer programmer and you make a lot of money and you're successful, you have job stability, or you become a nurse and you have lifetime job security.
Yeah.
And so I went on to do computers, and my husband went to do nursing.
Wow. I love the fact that you've been breaking down those barriers, including the gender barriers, even from the start. I love it.
Well, I didn't think that computer programmers could be women at that time, but in my very first class, the professor came in and she was a female, and I was floored. That was 1995. To me, it was completely unheard of. It was something very technical. And granted, I was the only girl in my class at that time. So it wasn't completely, invalid as a surprise that I had. But now my mother is a programmer.
Wow.
A lot of women are programmers. And from what I heard is that they're actually many times more diligent and more accurate as programmers than guys.
Yeah.
So we're definitely breaking those gender
barriers. Absolutely. So good to hear. So good to hear.
But my goal was really to create financial security for myself and my family at that time. And I knew that music wasn't going to get me there. And I remember going into the office, admissions office, and switching from music to computer programming major, and then going into my car and crying.
Oh.
Because I couldn't believe
this is your lifetime dream that you were putting on hold.
Complete transition, complete.
It was a switch, absolute switch.
So changes in life sometimes happen gradually. For me, it happened in that moment that I switched my major, and from there, I just learned about computers, and then I took some business classes, and I went to become a web developer for a local newspaper company. And somehow, while I was working as a web developer, I wasn't really managed. There was no department for web developers, because it was 2000. It was very new, not everyone needed or wanted a website just yet. And I was the department of one. And I had to constantly create my own projects, which I did. But over time, I just thought, I don't think I'm bored out of my mind. Like that was what I kept thinking. And then
no stimulation.
no stimulation, no creativity outlets. And as I had my second child, by then I really wanted to be a mom. And all the circumstances kind of converged into one decision to quit my job and become a stay-at-home mom and run my own business, which at the time was web design. I would design websites for other people. And then I discovered this whole thing called information marketing. And the rest is history.
Okay, so I think it would be fair to surmise that you actually fell into entrepreneurship, as many successful entrepreneurs often do. You know, there's a very small percentage that I've come across who actually were sort of born entrepreneurs from day one. You know, I mean, I think their journey to entrepreneurship, like a lot of us, as yours sounds like, it wasn't that you weren't necessarily, that you didn't have the entrepreneurship sort of skills and traits, but that wasn't your immediate path that was planned for you. Would that be correct at the start? And that you've that path.
I don't think that anybody's really born to be an entrepreneur. I think circumstances somehow happen in your life that allow you to see something in yourself and in this world that say to you, this is interesting, I want to try that. Yeah, I definitely had a plan B. When my daughter would turn 5 years old, I was planning to go back to work.
Right.
But by
salary
the time,
work.
9 to 5 work.
Yeah.
Right. By the time she was 5 and ready for kindergarten, I had already made $250,000. So clearly, I didn't need my plan B.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go back to $30,000 a year, and I loved my life working at home. But I think entrepreneurship is such a complex conversation. To be an entrepreneur, you need, most importantly, creative skills.
Yeah.
You need some initiative to create something or to find creative solutions, which if you don't have that, you're going to have to resort to what is given to you. And that's where the employee mindset kicks in, and that's where you're comfortable. My mother always says that she would never be able to do what I do because she likes being told what to do, being given assignments, and going home at the end of the day and forgetting about all of that.
Yeah. For some people, that's exactly what they want and need. You know, for others, they need that creative space and they want to be their own boss and they want to be able to define what they want to do and how they want to do it, etc. But one key piece I'm hearing was your ability very early on, and continues, given what I said about where you are now, is your ability to adapt and change. The ability to adapt and change your personal circumstances from when you knew that the money you were going to get wasn't going to be adequate. So you changed and you went and looked and found a computer programming degree that you thought would take you to that path. Your ability to change again when you had your second child and realize that actually this is a different route that I want to take. And to me, in addition to the creativity, these are key traits of entrepreneurs. You know, the ability to not just change, but expect change, be agile in your you know, change, and not just wait for things to happen to you, but, you know, take responsibility and move your business on. Fantastic.
Well, I think that every change happened with a little bit of kicking and screaming along the way.
Yeah.
Ideally, you know, nobody likes change. If they say they do, they're lying. Because changes come through some kind of forced circumstances. You just have to go through change sometimes.
Yeah, but what I meant was, I agree with you that, you know, it's difficult. Change is difficult, and we shouldn't underestimate that at all. But that some people are more open to the idea of change. You know, they have a mindset that allows them that process. So it makes it easier then. And as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, you really can't afford to just hold on to a pet passion if the circumstances around you are such that you need to change, you know, around you so that you can succeed or grow your business as you move along. Fantastic. Now, let's start to really break down. That's been a really helpful understanding of where you came from, some of the things that you were challenged by, and where, you know, how you developed your, as you say, by your second child, at least $250,000 in the bank, you know, and why that was really the stimuli, if you like, for not going back to salaried employment as you had planned. So let's talk about what we mean by online summit. How do they come about? How did you even think of that as a concept? What made you think about it, and how did it come about? And then we'll talk about what it means.
The story is actually very simple. I was invited to attend a mastermind event a few hours away from me. And I had 2 small children at home, but I thought it's only a couple of hours in Philadelphia, I will go. And I really loved that experience. It was a small group of people exchanging best practices, just, you know, a typical mastermind experience. But I had never seen anything like this. So I came home and I said, I want to create something like this in my niche, which was coaching, coaching industry. How do I do that? I'm not ready really to do a live event. I'm doing everything virtually. And so I chose to create a virtual mastermind of that kind. And I called it the Coaching Think Tank. And Coaching Think Tank.
Oh, think tank. Okay.
Right. And the organizer of the mastermind called me when I announced it and said, I love that you were inspired by my idea, but do you mind not calling it a think tank? Because if your think tank is big and my think tank gets big, because that's what was his event's name, people will be confused. And so I paused and I said, what shall I call it? And I started looking for a different name. And I found the word summit as the meeting of heads.
Yeah.
And then because it's virtual, it's a tele-summit because it would be on the phone. And so I called it telesummit. And the original word telesummit actually had a hyphen, telesummit. And over time, it kind of became one word.
Okay.
That's how I came up with the idea. Is I wanted to attend an event, an industry event, but I couldn't travel because I had 2 small children. And apparently I wasn't the only one. There were so many other people who couldn't or wouldn't travel for whatever reason to American events. So I had a lot of international people. I had a lot of moms. I ended up with almost 200 people buying a ticket to my first ever in the world telesummit.
Right. So originally it was a telesummit.
Correct.
And how would they have, would it work differently to how you do the online summits now? How would that have worked?
Well, the biggest difference is really the technology. At that time, there was only teleconference lines.
Yes, that's what I was wondering.
Could join a bridge line. Everybody calls into the same line. Now, there was no social media. There was no Facebook, no Twitter, no Facebook groups. So there was no easy way to connect people. Everything happened on the bridge line, to the point where I would say, okay, let's take a break between speakers, and I would, leave for a 15-minute break, and I would leave the bridge line open, and people
would
talk.
chat. Ah.
People would chat, yes. And that was so exciting to hear, where are you from? I'm from Australia. Where are you from? I'm from Pennsylvania. It was fascinating. I will never forget the feeling. It's not the same anymore because we're so connected now.
Yeah.
But
oh, definitely. Years ago, that would have been huge. Yeah. Really huge. Yeah. I'm remembering those times as well, because I was in business. We certainly didn't have the social media then, for sure. So you started off with these telesummits, and what was apart from having a group of people on there together that you had attended as a mastermind, was that your intention to create a sort of mastermind? Was that what you started off with? And is that what you still believe they should be?
Well, I think that is the biggest misunderstanding. Somewhere the concept of a telesummit got lost in translation. People saw the benefits of telesummit as list building. You're going to build your list.
Right.
And people saw that it's a series of interviews. And the truth is, yes, it's both. It's a list building venture, a strategy, and it's an interview series, right? But not really. It's an illusion. That's just the format of it. But it's actually a mastermind. And if you don't understand that, that's where you're going to go wrong with your summit. This is why many times a summit has a bad reputation. When you invite somebody, people immediately think, oh, it's just a series of interviews.
Yeah.
My summits were not only not free. I actually charged $197, as much as $500 to participate. But my summits were something that speakers pursued me to speak in because of how I design my summits. And I actually teach it right now in my program. But I want to say that most people don't understand what a summit is. And everybody who is teaching how to do a virtual summit, they have the same mentality. Get a bunch of speakers who have a list of 5,000 subscribers or more, and bam, you get to create your summit and build your list and become famous and rich.
Yeah. So
and theoretically, it may work like that, but most people don't quite get the concept behind what a summit is.
Which is the mastermind concept, rather than just run a series of interviews for the sake of running them and getting your list, which is a great sort of byproduct. But the main purpose when it was initially set up was that it should be a mastermind at the end of the day.
Well, that's how I set it up. Most important thing to understand about a virtual summit or telesummit is that it's a training event. And maybe trainings are happening in an interview format, but nevertheless, it is a training event.
So you're leaving your listeners with valuable content that that they've been trained on, that they can move on with after every interview, not just one or two. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, because over the years I've signed up. I thought there've been some interesting summits, and some have been very interesting, some have been very informative, but many have been just a collection of self-promotion, if I'm being very honest, and it's either the host promoting themselves, or indeed just giving the opportunity for the guests to promote themselves, which is fine as long as there's something of value added to it. And I think sometimes that balance is lost
the challenge with summits, telesummits and virtual summits, is that you want to create it as a summit leader to promote yourself, to get visibility, to position yourself, all these benefits, to build your list. But you can never forget that you want to create a win-win-win event for yourself, for your guest experts who will be speaking, and for the audience, most importantly, because without the audience, there's no event, there's no summit, there's no result.
Absolutely.
Right? And so there's a lot of principles that come into the success of a summit. First one is that it is a training event, not just a series of interviews. That's the most important one.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be the underlying principle guiding you when you're doing your summit.
Absolutely, yes.
Is what you're saying. Very, very, very helpful point. So somebody who may be listening might be thinking, this sounds like a good idea, never done it before. Let's try and answer, who is an online summit for? Who are the sort of people who might benefit from running an online summit? Is there a particular group or?
So an online summit is for you if your goal is to establish yourself as a go-to expert in your niche. The reason a summit is such a superior strategy is because the biggest challenge online right now in the business world is getting noticed. So many of us. There's so many people who coach, teach, speak on topics that seem very similar to the outsiders, to your potential client. So your only goal right now in business should be to find a way to stand out.
To differentiator.
Yes, exactly. To do something that nobody else is doing in your niche. And so I say to people, somebody else is going to do a summit in your niche and is going to dominate, so to speak, your topic. Why not you? Right? If you are an anger management expert, somebody else is going to host a summit on anger management. Why not you? If you are an expert on weight loss, why not you become the go-to expert, the primary resource on weight loss, right? I have a lady in my program right now who is a tango teacher, Argentine.
Oh, really?
Somebody sooner or later is going to hold a tango summit. Well, she's doing it first.
Brilliant. I think I might want to listen in on that one. I love the tango.
Right.
But yeah, you see, this is the thing that if you have something that can be inspirational, people are going to hook in. You know, why not you, as you say? If you have some expertise, why not you? Because someone else will. Absolutely. So we now start to understand not just what they could be, but ideally your initial concept and what they should be, i.e. the mastermind. We know that they can be run pretty much by anyone who wants to be set aside as an expert. How do you decide what your summit should be on? How do you decide?
Yeah. So we spend a couple of weeks on deciding. Some people came into the program, for example, already knowing what summit they want to create, what topic, what theme, and other people are searching for their right theme. And the way that we land on the right theme is we connect the dots between what you want to offer, like what you want to sell at the end of your summit, to the summit theme. What do people need to see on the front end in your summit in order to be the right person for your product or offer on the back end, right? So it's all about connecting your overall business vision to your summit, connecting the dots between the product or service that you want to offer to the summit that you should be holding. And of course, the number one question I ask is, after your summit, who do you want to be known as? Or what do you want to be known as?
Okay, so I know exactly what you're talking about, but just in case there's someone on the call listening in, where they're suddenly thinking, hang on, we were talking about summits. What's this product? Have I got to create a new product? What is she talking about? Perhaps you say a little bit more about the product?
Yeah, whatever it is that you're selling in your business, what is the thing that you want to offer? Because why are you building a business? Why are you creating visibility? So that you could get an audience to promote your products, programs, and services to. So you just need to choose one or two different offerings that you want to make to the people who go through your summit. So for example, you know, I have a client in the program who just completed a parenting summit. She wanted to be positioned as the advocate for moms. So she created a summit called the Stress-Free Mom Summit. And on the back end, she offered her parenting system.
Right.
So it's all connected together.
Product at the end. Or
product like a course or coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people don't want to offer anything at the end, which is fine, in which case the summit then becomes your product. Then you offer the recordings of your summit, right?
Okay, so there are two options. You know, you either have a product or service, and we're talking about the host's product or service that they're going to offer, as well as the guest's product services, or just the host's product service, so that people are very clear about this.
Your guest experts can absolutely offer products, but my recommendation and the way I teach people in my program is not to do that during the summit. During the summit, you don't want to sell anything because people signed up to learn. So you want to deliver as much educational value as possible, and then invite people to something else free, a free strategy session, a free checklist, a free video, a free webinar, whatever else you want to send people to.
Okay, and then the second point was that you were making was that at the end of the summit, you can sell the recordings, etc., from the summit itself. Am I right in thinking that's what you said? Yeah. Exactly. So that yet again is a revenue generating activity, not huge necessarily, presumably, but you know that will be bringing in some income if you're not selling your product at the end of that.
Well, it can be a pretty significant revenue stream depending on how you set it up. When I was doing my virtual summits years ago, for the first time ever, I hit a 6-figure year because of my summit.
Purely from summits?
Purely from summit. I didn't have any coaching programs at that time. I didn't really have any services. I was too busy to provide any web design services. I was purely selling recordings and the different levels of participation in my summit. You could just call in, or you could get the recordings, or you could get recordings with transcripts, or you could get recordings with transcripts with a 30-day follow-up program, right? So you could create different levels.
Yeah, that you could do that. Very, very good idea. That, you know, if so, here Milana is showing you that you have absolutely even no excuse not to start, because you don't even need a program. You just need to set it up correctly. You have a strategy then to sell your recordings on a phased process, depending on what you're offering them, and monetary sums to match that. And you just said that you made a 6-figure business from that.
And the cool thing about a summit for new business owners, for beginners, is that all you need is a great idea for your summit, a hook, an angle, a topic to get people excited about.
Yeah.
And you can enter the market for the first time and go big right away. Or you can build something like a starter level summit and make an entrance into the industry that you want to work in. It's your way of saying, I'm an expert on this. Whether you want it or not, whether there are already thousands of people who are saying they're experts, I'm an expert on this because I'm holding a summit on this topic.
Fantastic.
That's what it does for you.
So what's the ideal time for a summit? How long should it last?
A virtual summit can last anywhere between 5 days to 3 weeks, depending on your goals and how you want to structure it. I've also seen a summit that lasts 4 hours, and that's it. Just the 4-hour summit.
Wow.
Now, they don't call it a summit. They might call it something like a thon,
Yeah.
you know, a coach-a-thon or marketing-thon, but the concept is the same. You have multiple speakers, everybody's promoting it, everybody's driving their audience to register for the event.
So really the timing is not, or the length of time shouldn't really put you off. You should just have a really good concept and idea, get your speakers aligned around that, and then decide on the length of the time that you're going to go with it.
You can be as creative as you want when it comes to summits. I've actually seen somebody do a summit, blend of summit with an online challenge, where over the course of a summit, people had to complete something, like an online challenge.
Yes, that's a really good idea.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah, keeping people very motivated and engaged as well. That would be very good. Okay, so we've got a really good idea now of what they are, how often they should be, conducted, how you get your speakers, you line the whole process. Let's explode some objections and some myth busting, because I always like doing this, because there'll still be people sitting there listening to this with a whole load of objections in their minds about this. And some of the ones I know I've heard or I thought of was, I'll need to spend a lot of money to get online summits going in terms of platforms and all that sort of stuff.
There's only 3 pages to create for your summit. Registration page, a thank you page where you tell people how to get access to everything, and a page where you deliver all the recordings. That's it, 3 pages.
No excuse, guys, 3 pages.
You may need a virtual assistant if you are completely technologically challenged, or you may open an account with something like Lead Pages. It's a drag and drop web page creator, right? Or you might hire somebody from Upwork.com, freelancers that you can hire for $5, $10 an hour to do anything.
All amounts.
I'm currently having amazing, gorgeous, beautiful slides designed for $50, which would take me a week.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you do that when you can outsource it to a good person who can do it for you?
It doesn't need to take a lot of money. Also, I talk about the 3 different levels of summits: starter, next level, and cornerstone summit. Cornerstone summit is something that you do if you have a bigger team, more resources, you want to spend money on advertising. Starter level summit is if you have no team, if you're just getting started and you want to do a summit and you want to build your list, position yourself, but it's a smaller event.
Okay. Number 2, I won't be able to run these summits as I'm not connected to many subject experts or influencers.
Well, a summit is a great way to connect with those influencers. When I first did my summit, I had to invite people that didn't know me. I looked at the people who sold products, programs, who had books, and they didn't know me, but I made an offer that they couldn't refuse. I made an offer to position them, to give them an opportunity to share their type of expertise that they were passionate about, right? And it was unique. And that's the biggest thing that we talk about in the program, is how to come up with a very unique theme so that your speakers are really motivated and excited to participate. Even if they've never heard of you, they're still going to say yes.
Okay. And one question that I know I've heard people say is I'm not a huge expert or known as yet as a huge expert. Could I run an online summit?
Absolutely. I'm dealing with a few people right now who are asking the very same question. I'm not an expert on this. In fact, I'm not an expert really on anything. So one of the people who I featured in the program hosted a summit on a topic that she didn't know much about, but she was curious about it. She wanted to learn about it. So she approached all the people that she felt could share that expertise. So she became a curious student. She approached it as a student who was passing her knowledge to an audience of other people who wanted to learn about it.
Excellent.
So you can absolutely do that. And even if you're not an expert on whatever topic you're trying to create a summit on, you will be an expert by the end of your summit.
Yes, because you'll learn from all the others that you've engaged with.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, well, I could ask you a million things, but we are coming to the close of this particular part of the interview before we move on to the second series on a separate topic. But I just wanted to capture a few key takeaways that I've got from this. There were so many, I'm just trying to remember them all, but certainly one very key issue for me, and I think anyone who's thinking about exploring the whole idea of online summits, from what I've heard from you, is don't just make this a collection of interviews. Make sure that you remember your principal idea is that you want to deliver a mastermind, not just a collection of interviews, is what I heard you say. Which was very, very helpful for me and to be reminded, and indeed for the listeners. And what you just said as well about you don't need to be the expert. I think people would worry about that, that some people want to try the strategy. Of course, there will be some experts, but there's others who will want to try the strategy, but won't necessarily have that expert label at present and be known in their field. But you've just said you can be, in your words, a curious student, and that will get you there, and you will become known for the fact
and ask great questions, which will come from genuine curiosity.
Absolutely, fantastic. And finally, the thing that really worries a lot of people is, is this going to be an enormous cost or drain on resources on many levels? And you've just pointed out that actually you can keep it very simple as a starting. A novice at this, and do it, have some help if you need to. It's not very expensive, and you can move on from that and have quite a successful online summit going forward. So as we move towards ending this part of the interview, I want to share with you that Milana has very kindly agreed to share with all of you her 5 simple strategies that help summits sell. I almost didn't get the words up, that help summits sell. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But Milana, do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yes. So you'll find a lot of resources out there, and there's some programs out there that teach summits. As somebody who hosted the world's very first summit, I can tell you that many of them have the wrong approach, the wrong mindset behind a summit, which make people actually believe that summits are dead, which cannot be further from the truth, because I get invited to speak at a summit or to attend a summit every single week, and it's not stopping. It's just scratching.
They're incredibly popular.
So the bad summits are dead, but the summits that are unique and game-changing, and if you know how to approach it, they are very much well and alive and growing. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. And I don't know if you want me to tell people where they can go
Please.
get it. If you go to summitsmadesimple.com, summits with an S, summits, madesimple.com, you will find a resource where I share the 5 areas that you want to pay attention to as you are creating your virtual summit for your business. And so that'll be a great starting point for you to really understand, so that when you see anybody else talk about summits, you already know that that is not necessarily the only way to do it, and not necessarily the right way to do it.
And also not just when you're doing your summits, but you might be invited to summits, and that might help you just differentiate between the ones you want to be on and the ones that you don't want to be on, frankly. You know, if you know how they're...
I've actually interviewed over 500 people who are coaches, authors, and experts who shared their concerns and complaints about virtual summits, both from the speaker perspective, from the audience perspective, and as a host perspective. And so I really have accumulated a lot of that kind of feedback data, and that's the perspective that I'm teaching from.
And that's what you have ingrained into your 5 simple strategies document that you were talking about. So if you want the document, and I can't think why you wouldn't, given what we've all just heard, it's at summitsmadesimple.com. And we will put that on the show notes as well. So in case you miss it here, you'll be able to grab the link from there. So it just leaves me to thank you, Milana, for participating in the first part of this 2-part series, for sharing so willingly all those tips and techniques on running online summits. And we very much look forward to exploring the second half of your entrepreneurial journey, and more specifically, the Simplicity Circle, what it is and all of that in the next interview. So until then, I just want to say thank you very, very much for your participation. And to the listeners, until the next time on the Business Growth Mastery Show, I wish you every success in your business. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. Join us again next time when Hiroo and her guests will help you to understand how to gain business mastery so that you too can develop a strong and sustainable business. In the meantime, you can find more information at growyourbusinesssuccessfully.net.